Hilchos Shegagos Perek Shishi, the laws of inadvertent transgressions, specifically the sacrifices for inadvertent transgressions, chapter 6. There are 43 sins for which you bring a korban chatas, a sin offering. Most of them have to do with forbidden relationships. That's the ones that we covered the last couple of days. But then there's a whole bunch of them that have to do with eating. Forbidden fats, forbidden meats, forbidden substances. So now we're going to go on to the laws that govern inadvertent eatings. You ate something wrong. And the question is, in which scenarios do you bring multiple sin offerings, one sin offering? And basically the Rambam opens up the chapter with the guiding rule. He says, halacha aleph, he says, din shigigas hama'achalois ke din shigigas habe'ilos. The law which governs inadvertent eating is the same as the law that governs inadvertent relationships. So the same way yesterday we had a whole series of laws on if you had multiple forbidden relationships in one lapse of awareness or multiple lapses of awareness, or there's multiple entities involved, multiple women. So the same thing applies when it comes to food. That it's all about the lapses of awareness. How many lapses of awareness did you have? Lefichach, therefore, says the Rambam, im ochal achilos harbe mishem echad behelem echad. If you ate multiple times something which is under the same prohibition in one lapse of awareness. Afal pisha yesh b'nei and yomim rabim, even if there's multiple days between them. I put an example here of one day in between. Let's say on Sunday you ate forbidden fat, and then on Monday you ate forbidden fat, Tuesday you ate forbidden fat. So all 3 times it's the same sin. It's forbidden fat, but you never became aware in between that it's forbidden to eat these fats. So it's one long lapse for you. The Rambam says even if there's multiple days in between. Let's say this was Sunday, and then this was next week Sunday, and then next week Sunday. The point is it's all in one helim, in one unawareness. So at the end of the day, when you figure out that you shouldn't have eaten this forbidden fat, you're only going to be liable to one sin offering. Ketzad, what's an example of this? Ochal chelev hayoim, v'ochal chelev lemachar, the chelev lemachar behelem echad. Here's the example. You ate forbidden fat today. You ate forbidden fat the next day. You ate forbidden fat the next day. All in one lapse of awareness. Afal pishein b'shleisha tamchuyin, even if it was in 3 different bowls. Kind of like 3 different entities, you would think. Ein chayav ela achas. We put them all together in one group, and you're only liable once. But if there's an awareness in between, let's say you ate an olive-sized portion of forbidden fat, and then you found out that it was forbidden what you just did. Then you ate again another olive-sized portion, and you found out about it. You're liable to every single time you ate. Same rule as we had yesterday when it came to forbidden relationships. Finding out the knowledge is what divides the inadvertent transgressions, because it says in the Torah, that at what point do you become liable to bring a sin offering? When you find out. That means that finding out is operative, it's key. The moment you find out, that stops the previous inadvertency, and then if you do it again, it enters a new stage of inadvertency. Now, in general, in halacha, to be considered eating, you have to consume an olive-sized portion. The question is, what if it's only a half an olive-sized portion? What if it's less than that? Ochal kechatzi zayis chelev, v'chazar v'ochal kechatzi zayis chelev, behelem echad. Let's say you ate a half an olive-sized portion at one time, and then you ate another half an olive-sized portion, all in the same lapse of awareness, but each unit of eating wasn't enough to hold you liable. Even though it's 2 different bowls, and there's a time frame of pausing in between. So fascinatingly here, the 2 do come together, and we say in total, you ate a full kazayas unaware. You have to bring a sin offering, because the bowls don't divide. Now, it has to be at least somewhat close to each other. You can't delay, or the pause between them cannot be larger than the amount of time it takes to consume 3 eggs. As we explained in the laws of forbidden foods. In order for 2 eatings to be considered in one time frame, they have to be done within the time it takes to eat 3 eggs, which is about today anywhere between 4 to 6 minutes. Some say even 2 minutes, some say 9 minutes. There's a lot of different opinions of how long this takes. But basically it has to be within that time frame. You can't eat, in the morning for breakfast, a half an olive-sized portion, and then for dinner, even though it's in one lapse of awareness, Those don't combine. Shekeshem shemitzaref hashir lemezid lemalkos kach mitzaref hashir l'shegeg lekarbon. Whatever would be considered part of the same eating for purposeful eating, for punishment, for lashes, would be one eating for bringing a sacrifice. But if it's too far apart, then we can't bring together those two time frames. Halacha beis ochal noisar mechamisha zvachim. You have 5 different sacrifices that were left past their eating time. They're now called noisar, leftover sacrificial meat. And you ate a little bit of all these 5. Kizayis mikol zevach, 1 olive-sized portion from each sacrifice, behelim echad, in 1 lapse of awareness. So what did you do? The same sin 5 times. You ate leftover sacrificial meat. But there's a little bit of a difference here in that you ate it from 5 different entities. Afal pisha achlan b'chamisha tamchuyin. Even though you only ate it in 5 different bowls, you're only liable once. Shekulan shem echadem, because they're all one prohibition. The bowls don't make it different entities. And here's the chidush, here's the novelty, v'gufei hazvachim einan mechalkin. The fact that it comes from a number of different sacrifices also makes no difference. Even though yesterday when it came to forbidden relationships, if it's multiple women, that creates multiple liabilities. Here, the fact that it's multiple sacrifices does not create multiple liabilities. Because the prohibition of eating leftover meat doesn't matter if it's 1 sacrifice or multiple sacrifices. By the way, even if you have, let's say you had 5 sacrifices that were left over, and you ate 1 kazayas from them all. You took a 5th of an olive-sized portion from here, a 5th from here, a 5th from there. Total, you created 1 kazayas. You'd still transgress the prohibition of noisar, because noisar is eating sacrificial meat in general. So therefore, the fact that these 5 bowls in this case came from 5 different sacrifices makes no difference. Same thing would apply if you slaughtered 5 different sacrifices outside the temple in 1 lapse of awareness. You're only liable once. What's a good metaphor for this? Let's say you would bow to 5 different idols in 1 lapse of awareness. The fact that it's 5 different idols doesn't make a difference. What's the problem? The problem is idol worship. The fact that it manifested in 5 ways makes no difference. It's 1 sin. Same thing over here with noisar, it's 1 sin. Halacha gimel, hikis dam lebehemtai. Let's say a person let blood. It was common practice to, like, if you felt that your animal was sick, you would do like a little blood test, let some blood, and it was considered to be healthy. Let's say there's a lot of blood. You took them in 2 different cups, and then you drank them, which is forbidden. You can't drink blood, under 1 lapse of awareness. Same thing over here. Only 1 sin offering. Why? Because it's 1 sin. What if you eat multiple foods that each one carries a different prohibition? Then, even if it's 1 lapse of awareness, you're liable for every single entity because it's all different categories, not 5 bowls of noisar. Let's say that Rambam gives an example right now. Ketzad, what's an example of this? You ate forbidden fats, and you ate blood, and you ate leftover sacrificial meat, and you ate meat that was offered with improper intent. 1 olive-sized portion from each one, under 1 lapse of awareness. Maybe arba chatois. When you find out, you have to bring 4 different sacrifices because it's different categories of sin.
Even if it's only 1 bowl.
Even if it's all 1 bowl. That's exactly the chiddush here. And the same thing applies in all similar situations. Once you have multiple sin offerings are required. It goes even further. Let's say, like we had 2 days ago with the women, right? There could be 1 woman who, because of a bunch of circumstances, she herself carries 7 or 8 counts of prohibition. So 1 relationship gets you multiple sin offerings. Here also, if you have 1 piece of meat that has on it a bunch of different counts, as we'll see in a minute an example of this, if the additional prohibitions were introduced in a halachically significant way, which are 3 ways. Either moisif means the scope applies to more people. Koilel means the scope applies to more entities, not people. And basachas means they came at once. If the 2 prohibitions devolve at once, then chayav al kol shem v'shem, you'd be liable for each count. And here's the example that the Rambam gives. Lefichach, therefore, hatame, a person is ritually impure. That's the red outline here. He's ritually impure. Sha'achal kizayis chelev v'noisar b'yom kippurim. he eats an olive-sized portion. He eats an olive-sized portion of meat, which happens to have in it forbidden fat, and happens to be leftover sacrificial meat, and this happens to be on Yom Kippur. 4 problems. He's an impure person eating a sacrifice. It's Yom Kippur and he's eating. It's forbidden fats, and it's leftover meat. Mevi arba chatois va'asham. You're actually going to be liable here 5 counts. 4 sin offerings and a guilt offering. Chatos achas mishum tameh she'achal kodesh. Number 1, you're ritually impure and you ate sacrificial meat. That's a sin offering right there. The achas mishum eichel chelev. The achas mishum eichel neisar. 1 for eating forbidden fat. 1 for eating forbidden leftover sacrificial meat. The achas mishum yom kippurim, and 1 for eating on Yom Kippur. Which, by the way, the Rambam adds parenthetically, v'hu yitztaref eichel acher im kezay yezeh ad sheyashlimer lechakei seves. You have to have a little bit more food, more than an olive-sized portion. It needs to be a date-sized portion. To transgress eating on Yom Kippur, you need more than the regular amount. It has to be a date size. So let's say you ate a little more food also. Umevi asham vade limi'ila, and you also have to bring a guilt offering because you did sacrilege. You benefited from hektish. You had your lunch using hektish food. You derive benefit from hektish inadvertently, which is the last set of laws in the last book, Me'ilah, for which you bring a definite guilt offering, as we're going to learn later on in this set of laws. So the point is over here that these prohibitions all devolve onto this piece of meat, and when you transgress, you're held accountable for all the counts. Halacha hey, here's a more classic, easier to understand case. A person both eats and drinks on Yom Kippur in one lapse of awareness. So technically, if you ate on Yom Kippur, just eating, you'd be held liable. If you just drank on Yom Kippur, you'll also be held liable. If you ate and drank, there's room to think that you should be liable twice. But we don't say that. You're only liable once. Because for halacha, eating and drinking together is considered one act, not 2 separate acts. Each one is significant enough on its own, but coming together, it's considered one. This year, Yom Kippur was on Shabbos. So a person does work on Yom Kippur that falls out on Shabbos. There's 2 prohibitions. Doing work on Yom Kippur, doing work on Shabbos. You're liable 2 sin offerings. Because these 2 prohibitions devolve at once. The moment Yom Kippur begins, Shabbos also begins. So it's both carrying together. Halacha zayin, achal kechatzi zayis chelev, kechatzi zayis dam, behelem echad. If you consumed a half an olive-sized portion of forbidden fat, a half an olive-sized portion of blood, 1 lapse of awareness. What have you done? You've consumed an olive-sized portion of forbidden substance. But each substance, you don't have a full kazayas. Ein nechayev karban, so you're not liable to a sacrifice at all. Kashem she'eno yisurim mitzdarfin l'malkos, k'misha bi'arno b'ilchas ma'achales asurais, kachein mitzdarfin l'karban. The same way if you did it purposely. In this scenario, you wouldn't be liable to lashes. So too, if you did it inadvertently, you're not liable to bring a sacrifice. Halacha ches. Let's take a look at this. Ochal kechatzi zayis v'noidaloi. You ate, we're going to use this example first. You ate forbidden fats, but only half of an olive-sized portion, under a lapse of awareness. Then you found out in the middle. You got your light bulb, you realized, it's forbidden fat, I shouldn't be eating it. V'chazar v'shachach v'ochal kechatzi zayis acher behelim sheni. Then you forget again, your brain is not working, and you eat another half of an olive-sized portion, but it's a different lapse of awareness. So if you combine these 2 lapses, you have a total of an olive-sized portion of forbidden fat. But you had a yediyah, you had a knowledge in the middle. It says the Rambam potter, you're exempt. Because you found out in the middle, and the rule is, even if all you found out was about half of the requisite amount, that's considered a halachically significant knowledge, and it divides it from the next lapse of awareness which you have. The same thing would apply in a different scenario, not food, but let's say Shabbos. Let's say you wrote just 1 letter on Shabbos, which is not really a full labor. On Shabbos, to be liable for writing, you have to write 2 letters. So you wrote 1 letter inadvertently, then you found out it's forbidden to write. Then you forget again. You write a 2nd letter right next to it in a different lapse of awareness. Pater mikarban chatas, you're exempt from a sin offering. V'chein kol kayetze was that in all similar situations. Even though in total you've done a full act under a lapse of awareness, since you found out in the middle, that divides the 2 lapses, and you're exempt. Here's another example. V'cheinim hoitzi shtei ames b'shegeg, Ushtei ames b'mezid, ushtei ames b'shegeg. On Shabbos, we remember, it's forbidden to transfer in a public domain 4 amas. That's 6 feet, 4 cubits. So let's say you carried for 2 amas inadvertently, means you forgot it's forbidden on Shabbos. Then you remembered, and you carried 2 more amas purposely. Then you forgot again, and you carried 2 more amas inadvertently. So in bizrika, chayav. If you did so by throwing, then you're liable. Because the throwing is one act. Not because the knowledge that you have in the middle is not considered significant. You cannot bring it back. Once you throw a ball, you can't get it back. So the knowledge that you have in the middle of the ball's flight makes no difference. But if it's you actually transferring it, potter, you're exempt. Because the knowledge that you have in the middle, even though you keep on violating Shabbos voluntarily, but it's considered a significant knowledge to divide the 2 lapses in the beginning and the end. So you don't have a total of 4 amas in any state. You don't have 4 amas in a row inadvertently. You don't have 4 amas purposely. So you're held completely exempt. You ate 2 olive-sized portions of forbidden fat in 1 lapse of awareness. It's a pretty easy case, but now follow what happened. You found out in increments. It's not like you ate 2 and then you found out, I just ate 2 things. You first found out about 1. And then you found out about the second one. Maybe shtei chatois. Here you have to bring 2 sin offerings. In the beginning of the chapter we just said that if you do the same sin multiple times, when you find out, only 1 sin offering is required. But here, since you found out in stages, so every finding out makes you liable again. The knowledge, the finding out, divides the transgressions, even though you haven't yet put aside a sacrifice for the first one. But if you found out about both at once, maybe chatas achas, you only have to bring 1 sin offering. Same thing, it seems to me, says the Rambam, it's not clear in the Talmud, but it seems to me that the same thing applies with relationships. Where yesterday we said if you repeatedly have relations with a nida, let's say, when you find out at the end, you only have to bring 1 sin offering. But what if you found out in increments? Each finding out would hold you accountable for a different offering. Halacha yud, achal kazayis umechza, behelem echad, v'noida loy al kazayis. The details are important here. You ate a kazayis and a half. 1.5 olive-sized portions. But you only found out about 1 olive-sized portion. So the other half, you're still in a lapse of awareness. Then, while still under the lapse about the second half, you ate another half. So you combine out the 2 halves, you have a second olive-sized portion. Still, you're only liable once. The first half of an olive-sized portion does not combine with the second, even though they're under the same lapse of awareness, because you've already found out about part of the initial lapse, the first olive-sized portion, so that already considers the entire thing out the window, and nothing else can combine with it. I tried to bring this on a chart just to bring out the point, but I'm not sure it comes out across. But let's just say these 2 on the left will be considered in 1 lapse of awareness. You ate 2 olive-sized portions of forbidden fat in 1 lapse. Then you find out about the red one, let's say. Okay, so you ate red and purple together, you find out about the red one. Then you eat the blue one while still under the lapse of the purple one. So if you think about it, the purple one crossed lapses with both the red and the blue. Initially, when you ate the purple with the red, you forgot about both. Then you only found out about the red, still haven't found out about the purple, and now you ate the blue, so now it's crossing over with the purple. So now, says the Rambam, it depends which offering you bring. If you bring a sin offering for the first one, the red one, which you found out about just now, Rishen v'sheni miskaprin, it automatically covers also the purple one, because it was eaten together with it. Avol shlishi le miskaprin, but not the third one, that was a whole different eating. When you find out about that one, you bring a second sin offering. Hevi chatas al shlishi. Let's say you found out about the blue one, the third one, and you bring a sin offering for that one. Shlishi v'sheni miskaprim. It covers also the purple one because it was eaten in the same lapse. Sheshneim behelim echad. They're both in the same unawareness. V'rishan lein niskaper b'chatazu, but not the first one because it's totally separate. Hevi chatas al ha'imtzoi. If you find out about the purple one and you bring a sin offering for the purple one, it actually shlushtan miskapri and it covers all three. Because both the red and the blue, the first and the third, were both under the same lapse as the middle one. So much so that if you only find out later about the first and the third one, no new sin offering is required because they've both been covered in the purple one. Halacha Yud Beis, Misha achal chaticha, mishtei chatichais, v'nistapek lo yim achal chelev oy shuman. There was two pieces in front of you. One of them was forbidden, one of them was permitted. You ate one, and you're in doubt what you ate. V'achal chaticha acheres, mishtei chatichais. Then there was another pile of two pieces, also one forbidden, one permitted, and you ate one of them, and you don't know what you ate. So there's basically four pieces of meat, right? Two here, two here. Here, one forbidden, one permitted. Here, one forbidden, one permitted. You ate one of both piles, you don't know which one you ate. A few hours later, someone confirms for you that both times you ate the forbidden piece. You're only liable once. Because the fact that you, after the first pile, became in doubt whether you ate forbidden or permitted, it's a type of finding out because you found that there's a potential problem, but it's only called yediyah safek because it isn't any definite knowledge. So even though shemechalekas la'ashamis, we're going to see later that when it comes to an asham toli, a doubtful guilt offering, knowledge of doubt is significant. Eino mechalekas lachatois. For sin offerings, it's not significant. The fact that you found out about a doubt makes no difference. Later on, when the doubts are confirmed, they all become under one umbrella. You only have to bring one sin offering.